Alrighty, guys, we are live and we are rocking and rolling here. This is the Rover Sports Super Bowl preview show. I hope that everybody is having terrific Thursday afternoons and all across this country and great place and all around the world. It's nice to be doing this show, a little Thursday night show right here, Rover Sports, streaming live on YouTube, and also this is going to be a podcast, so this will be out on iTunes as well. But we got a Super Bowl preview show. I hope that you guys can all view it, and let's see here. It is on, and we are live, so you guys can come on in here and. You guys can comment on the show. So just waiting for some folks to come on in. Here we go. We got 2 people watching, so this is apparently open to the public, which is always a good thing. So without any further ado, I wanted to talk about the Super Bowl. I wanted to talk about the big game. And I wanted this to kind of be somewhat of a podcast style, but I'm also going to be taking questions that y'all are going to have. So basically, first off, the people in Miami, people in Miami are having an awesome experience at the Super Bowl. Getting to go to the Super Bowl. So if they're 49ers fans or Chiefs people out there, getting to go to the Super Bowl is a once in a lifetime experience. If you're ever able to take your kids or you're ever able to go, it's the pinnacle of sports, but it's also the pinnacle of life, other than your kids being born, other than yourself being born. It's right up there with some of the greatest things that you're ever going to achieve in your life, and the Super Bowl is an unforgettable experience, and I encourage Chiefs and Niners fans to not take this for granted. This entire week, the build-up being 2 weeks long, breaking down what can happen in this game, it's absolutely sensational. So first, let's talk about the 2 teams. Let's kind of talk about the roads to getting here, and then we're going to kind of go and talk about the football game. And throughout this process, I'll also take a look at some of your guys' questions as well throughout the process. So the key for the 49ers, when we look back at this entire campaign and this entire season, and I'm going to pull up the schedule. I see here Brandon's in the house, Ursin is in the crib, and Lalo Paz, and I think Lalo's been here ever since the days of Blaine Gabbert, Colin Kaepernick, when I was breaking down that preseason tape. And part of why I really gave YouTube a huge go and I devoted just so much time to it was because of the Niner Empire, and they were quadruple the views that I ever would get on a video. And those guys and those people, when I would put out that Blaine Gabbert, film review, when I would put out a film review of Nick Mullins, a quarterback film review, even if it was a backup quarterback, they would devour it, and they're the best group on YouTube. But anyway, Brandon, I know you're a Seahawks fan. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to recap kind of the Niners season and how incredible it was, because I said it would be Niners Chiefs last year. So we kind of go back, and the Niners really didn't gain a lot of respect throughout the campaign. The Niners beat the Buccaneers opening week. It was a sloppy game. The Bucs were in this game for a while, but then Jameis Winston ended up throwing those interceptions down the stretch. I think a huge pick six ended up sealing the game for the 49ers to beat the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That was on September 8th. Then the 49ers went to Cincinnati And that first half, they absolutely beat the living shit out of the Cincinnati Bengals. That was just a beatdown. They were up at the half 21-10. Garoppolo, 296 and 3 touchdowns for Jimmy that day. Deebo Samuel had a touchdown and 86 receiving yards. Marquise Goodwin was a big factor. And Matt Breida had a big game. Raheem Mostert had that huge catch and run. So that was a nice win. And then they played the Steelers with Mason Rudolph. And at that point, it was Mason's first start. We didn't know how bad he would be. But the 49ers in the first half, I think they turned the ball over 4 times. And they still found a way to win that game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And that's when I knew this team was for real, because Jimmy Garoppolo really carried that team along with the defense. So that meant a lot. And Lalo, I appreciate that comment. CA Sports, I appreciate the comment. Deebo Samuel from South Carolina, the reason he slid in the draft was because at South Carolina, he had like Dylan Thompson throwing him the football, and Dylan Thompson is a good kid from Thompson Springs. So this isn't to rag on Dylan Thompson, but that offense there was towards the end of Spurrier, towards the beginning of Will Muschamp, and he ended up getting injured a lot at South Carolina, and he was a kick return specialist, so he was great at kick returning. And then he had Jake Bentley throwing on the ball, and Bentley was fine, but Deebo Samuel has so much speed, and he's utilized in this offense very, very well, and he's not asked to do a tremendous amount because George Kittle is also a receiver on this team. So then, an impressive win against the Steelers. Then they beat the Browns 31-3, but people are more like, this Browns team just sucks. But at this point, it's a 4-0 49ers team. Then they go to LA, and they shut down Jared Goff and the Rams. Suddenly, this team is 5-0, and they're playing really well. And in that game, the defense was spectacular. And in the Browns game, Garoppolo in the running game did enough to win. And the defense, of course, spectacular. That was, I think in this game, Bosa had about maybe 3 or 4 sacks in the game. He was just absolutely incredible. He had 2 sacks, actually, in the Browns game, and he planted the flag back on Mayfield. Then they go 9-0 versus the Redskins, sliding in the rain there. And then against the Panthers to go to 7-0, 51-13 on a Ron Rivera defense. The running game, absolutely magnificent. The defense plays lights out. 51-13 game. And right now, Garoppolo's coasting, but the defense and the running game. That day, the 49ers run the football. It looks like 180 yards. Tevin goes 3 touchdowns that day, 105 yards on the ground. They beat Arizona at Arizona. So when a lot of people say Jimmy Garoppolo is just coasting to a Super Bowl, that couldn't be more false. Jimmy Garoppolo was absolutely a superstar in this Arizona Cardinals game. Jimmy Garoppolo at Arizona, 4 touchdowns, 317 yards, 0 picks. And Garoppolo had the game-sealing 3rd and 9 throws to Emmanuel Sanders. And Emmanuel Sanders just got there a week ago. And you got to give credit to Wes Welker, because Wes Welker ended up developing Emmanuel Sanders. George Kittle had a brilliant night, but then was sidelined the rest of this game. So Kyler Murray and Kenyon Drake both played tremendously, but Garoppolo was just too good in that game. And the 49ers needed every one of these games. Then the Seahawks come down. Russell Wilson, incredible, in overtime to derail the perfect season in Week 9. 49ers then beat the Cardinals, and they're trailing at this point 16-10 in the first half. So this has just been an unbelievable season. When you look back and you celebrate this season that the 49ers have had. They've been the best team in the NFL all year. They were the best team because their defense of Robert Saleh, Bosa was spectacular. Armstead, DeForest Buckner, Richard Sherman, Jimmy Ward, Quan Alexander. I think it's Quan Alexander. But you also look at Witherspoon, at Akila Witherspoon. So good. 49ers then beat the Packers 37-8. They then lose to Baltimore, and then the Saints game was the game. That was Jimmy Garoppolo's masterpiece for everybody down in Garoppolo and George Kittle. Coming back at the Dome, I believe the Saints jumped on the 49ers. They were up like 21-7, and Garoppolo and company didn't blink. And for people who just want to say the defense and running game has carried Jimmy Garoppolo to the dang Super Bowl, I mean, this same 49ers defense gave up 323 yards to Jared Goff, and the Rams put up 31 points, but Jimmy Garoppolo then puts up 250 of his own. And this offense scores 34 points against the Rams. So this offense all year has been really good. And Garoppolo all year has been great. Like him in that Saints game, if Jimmy G didn't beat the Saints, then home field advantage would have not been possible. So that's just putting everything in perspective. And then, of course, the goal line stand. The 49ers then get to the championship game, and I believe that they're going to end up winning this championship game. I'll take some questions now. Thoughts on the Denver Broncos? I think the Denver Broncos, I said that they would be a Super Bowl team this year because I said that this was Joe Flacco's bid at a Hall of Fame. Because if Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl this year, his career is very similar to Eli Manning. He's lights out in the playoffs. He's been a franchise quarterback a long time. He's been a good quarterback a long time, but he hasn't been elite, or he hasn't been like week in, week out incredible quarterback. And that's why for Joe Flacco, this was his last opportunity. But the defense is there. You know, Von Miller, Josie Jewell didn't play as well as I wanted him to. And I just think Drew Lock is going to be a fantastic football player. And I said that he had a lot of talent coming out of the draft. And you watch him play and his game really translate to this NFL. And Shermer's a questionable hire. Mike Sullivan. I don't know how creative Pat Shermer's going to be with that defense, though. And that's why I'm a little bit worried for the Denver Broncos. I'll answer John's question after. Raphael says, out of these two teams, which team has a better chance of getting back to the Super Bowl? So a lot of people are going to say that the Kansas City Chiefs are, you know, destined for greatness with Patrick Mahomes, and he's the new face of the NFL. But you don't know what is going to happen to Patrick Mahomes. And everybody looks at Brett Favre's first couple years back in 96 and 97, and they all assumed that Brett Favre would just get back to the pinnacle of a championship immediately. They thought that he would just get back to a Super Bowl championship, and they thought he would get back to the pinnacle immediately. But that did not happen. He never got back to a Super Bowl. And I think with Andy Reid, with the amount of money Mahomes is going to get, just with how difficult it is to get back, I see the Niners winning this game. And I also see Patrick Mahomes never getting back. Well, not getting back to a Super Bowl for maybe 3 more years. I think the 49ers are going to be back in the Super Bowl next year defending their championship. I think the 49ers have a great chance because the Giants are still a little bit far away. The Giants need another class. And after the Giants get another class, I think that Joe Judge will be in a Super Bowl in about 3 years. In the NFC, too, who can challenge the 49ers in the NFC? I think the Rams are a really good team. I think that the Saints, if Drew Brees does not come back, the Saints will take a big downfall. I don't think Teddy can do what Drew does, and I'm not sure Taysom Hill is a franchise caliber quarterback. And the Saints defense is getting older and getting worse. It's not at its peak. The Vikings, is that defense going to suddenly be good enough to beat the 49ers and be really good? I do not think so. Although they did fire George Edwards, so they're trying to make wholesale changes. The Packers, I don't believe. So I'm still a little bit afraid of Sean McVay. I still respect the Philadelphia Eagles and their ability next year. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers are a big sleeper team, especially because they have Mike Evans. Who is still going to probably be really good. Their defensive line, if Shaquille Barrett comes back, with Ndamukong Suh, JPP at the end of the year, and Todd Bowles with like Whitehead and some of their cornerbacks, Tampa Bay played really physical, good football, and Bruce Arians is an awesome, awesome coach. But I believe the 49ers are still going to be the best team next year in the NFC. In terms of the AFC, I really look at, Denver. I look at the Colts. There are certain teams in the AFC, the Patriots, that are still going to challenge. And it's not like Andy Reid has been flawless in the playoffs in terms of choking away games, all right? I think that, John, I'm really excited for the New York Giants season. Absolutely. I think Joe Judge is going to be great for this group. And Joe Judge is going to be a guy that'll attack every day. He has Freddie Kitchens at the helm over there. It's going to be a stellar, stellar season for the New York Giants next year. Or I just want to see, competing for a playoff next year. But going forward, getting Freddie Kitchens and Jason Witten would be an amazing, amazing guy to get. Jason Witten would just be amazing. I'm not sold on Matt Ryan ever getting back to a Super Bowl. So I would say no on the Falcons. I just think that their time has passed. All right, guys, let's look at the Kansas City run to the Super Bowl now, and then we're going to talk about the game and everything surrounding it. Last year a lot of people were pissed off at, the Super Bowl, and they said the Super Bowl sucked last year. But I liked how bad the Super Bowl was, because it's almost like people watch a great television show, and then everybody just skips to the finale, and then they're like, it wasn't that good of a show, but the finale is only for the casual fans, and that's what the Super Bowl is, for the casuals. But if you watch the AFC Championships, if you watch the season last year, football is always really good, the NFL. And I just think that with the way that the Saints lost that game in New Orleans, I did not want the Super Bowl to be good last year, because it's all these casual people, and I'm sure you guys have some of them at your Super Bowl parties that they don't watch football, but then they bother you or they ask you a lot of questions about the game, and they say, what's this player about? What's that flag on the field? What's this? What's that? But the real diehards like us, we've been in it the whole year. And, after the Super Bowl's over, it's a little bit depressing, but at the same time, it's exciting. Unless you're in the Super Bowl, unless you're a Niners or a Chiefs fan, it's exciting because then the deck just gets reshuffled again. It gets reshuffled. So that's why it's nice. And I didn't mind the Super Bowl. I don't really tune into it as ferociously as everybody else unless my team is in it. I'm going to watch the game. But again, I enjoy all season. I enjoy the journey, not just the end result. I enjoy the journey and not the end result. Okay, so I love seeing the Patriots kick their ass. I love seeing that last year. Okay, that I didn't want the Rams and Sean McVay to win. Sean McVay can't even grow facial hair. He shouldn't be winning a Super Bowl championship. He's too young. It would have been too easy. You saw Doug Peterson and Nick Foles do it. I don't want Super Bowls to be easy. I want there to be some hardship along the way. And both of these teams have kind of built and kind of have gotten close before. So, It is nice that Donovan McNabb spoke to the Chiefs, and even though the 49ers are my best friends on here in terms of their fans, and I'm probably rooting for the 49ers to win, I've always liked Mahomes ever since he's gotten drafted into the league. I like him as a kid, and his game is just so exciting to watch. His arm strength is ridiculous. The way he plays the game, youthful enthusiasm. So Patrick is definitely a sensational player, Patrick Mahomes. But looking here at the Chiefs in their regular season, so the Chiefs beat the Jaguars bad. Then they were able to defeat the Raiders. They played great against Oakland, pretty much wiped them out in the second half of that game. Oakland beat them up early, but then they won late. Against the Ravens, they played beautifully. They were 3-0. And against the Lions should have beat them. The Chiefs, I think, had a 99-yard return for a touchdown in that game. So 4-0 for the Kansas City Chiefs, thinking they're unbeatable. Then the Colts go and run the ball down KC's throat. Then the Texans run it down KC's throat. Okay? So now they're 4-2, and you're like, the Chiefs are mortal. What the hell is going on with the Kansas City Chiefs? But then the Chiefs go and they beat Denver, and that's when Mahomes gets hurt, and Matt Moore has to come in. Then the Packers beat Kansas City. Then the Chiefs, though, impressively beat Minnesota and a full-deck Minnesota team. The Chiefs then lose a close one to the Tennessee Titans. Then the Chiefs. So the Chiefs, when they lose to the Tennessee Titans and Mahomes comes back, you're like, this isn't the same Mahomes. This isn't the same Kansas City Chiefs. You really start to worry. You really start to worry about Kansas City. But then Kansas City goes and they crush Oakland, decapitate them. They beat the Chargers in Mexico City, an underrated game and a really gritty good victory. They beat the Patriots on the road, the staple of their season. They go home and play Drew Lock, and then they take care of the Bears and the Chargers to be 12-4, with a couple of those losses being with Matt Moore at quarterback. They then take on a really easy road to a Super Bowl, but again, they had to beat the Patriots away to get their opportunity. Another impressive win that the Chiefs had. I mean, the Chiefs, the West was definitely down this year with Denver, with Oakland, and with the Chargers, but I think they swept their division, which is really, really hard to do. And, man, pretty dominant year, and the AFC kind of ended up not being that good. So, beating the Vikings without Kirk Cousins was a big accomplishment. So Kansas City, and then in the playoffs, playing great football. Mahomes is just that good. He's at peak of powers right now. Mahomes at peak of power. So in the game, I think the 49ers, the key in this game is for the 49ers to get to Patrick. It's Bosa getting after Patrick Mahomes. That, I think, is the key. Bosa has to get after him. Who else on the edge? D Ford is going to be a massive key in this game. Can D Ford get to the quarterback? Can D Ford get to Mahomes and push Mahomes off of his spot? I think guarding Travis Kelce, Fred Warner's going to have to lock down Kelce. Fred Warner's going to have to lock down Kelce. I think that the Chiefs' defense, Spagnuolo, is really, really good. They're playing the run tremendously well. They've improved unbelievably. So this could be a low-scoring game unless the Niners' defense can really get some turnovers in the game. If the Niners, if the Chiefs end up scoring touchdowns and just throwing through the air and controlling the ball, that's very worrisome. So will Patrick Mahomes be patient in this spot? That's a key for Kansas City, is against this cover 3, you have to take the checkdowns. But for the 49ers, it's stuffing the run. It's getting them back in the third and longs and then forcing Mahomes to throw little dump-off passes. It's getting up on them early. I think the Niners will play looser in this game. They have more experience with Sherman being there. And I'm not really worried about Garoppolo because I think that he'll be playing with the lead most of the game. If the Chiefs happen to move the ball and the game turns into a shootout, then I think that the 49ers are a little bit neutralized. I know that they can win a shootout, but that's not the way they want to win. They want to win going away, and they want to win it with Robert Saleh's defense. And I think that we're going to come here on Sunday night, and we're going to talk about how dominant this defense is. And for Andy Reid and the Kansas City Chiefs, all the pressure of winning a Super Bowl, of getting back to this moment, I think that it's going to weigh so much on him, and I'm not sure Reid will ever coach in the Super Bowl again. I'm not sure if Patrick will be here for another 10 years. That's how difficult it is to get to a Super Bowl, because I think that this Chiefs defense is not as talented as the 49ers. I think that with Saleh coming back next year, they're going to look to repeat. I really do. And I could see them going into a little mini dynasty here, the 49ers. But Kansas City's had an easier run to the Super Bowl. Kansas City has a very easy schedule in the AFC West. Mahomes is as good as he's ever going to be, and he's as cheap as he's ever going to be. And then when you pay Mahomes this defense that is overachieving with Spagnuolo, who is excellent, is not going to get better. You know, the Patriots are still there with Bill Belichick. And then you look at the Colts are going to probably upgrade their quarterback. You know, the Chargers could end up getting Herbert, or the Bengals are going to get Burrow or Herbert. The Browns, the Pittsburgh Steelers, for goodness sakes, with Ben in that defense, they're probably a Super Bowl favorite next year, the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's maybe the team that I would take. So for Kansas City, they need to win this one for Reid and for Patrick Mahomes. I don't want Mahomes to go down as another Dan Marino. I'm very torn because I do like Mahomes a lot. I do like Kansas City a lot, but the 49ers, again, have been like, their fan base have been like family members on my YouTube channel in terms of them just supporting the channel. So it is very tough. And Jimmy Garoppolo, I've been the biggest defender of Jimmy G, of Kyle and John Lynch. I remember supporting the John Lynch hire well before anybody else. I just think that John Lynch has a way of communicating with people. He's forward thinking. He is just incredibly persuasive, and he's just very forward thinking, and even operating that draft day trade to get Chicago to bite up to 2 to take Mitchell Trubisky just showed the poise of John Lynch in his first draft, and it showed what Jed York envisioned for the 49ers. Then the acquiring of Sherman in the offseason, bringing him closer back to his roots here in California. Then you look at D Ford, that trade was absolutely fantastic. Quan Alexander has been well worth the money, and then him not he's not overdrafting guys like John Lynch. You know, we've been clamoring for more safeties, but he knew that the guy out of Tennessee, Emmanuel Mosley, was good enough. So, and he knew Deebo Samuel would come in and make an impact. Jalen Hurd hasn't even really seen the field. Raheem Mostert being there. Jimmy Garoppolo's contract not looking at all bad when you consider what, Patrick's going to be making, when you consider that Dak Prescott's going to be making $7 more million. That was a very proactive decision. The trading of a second-round pick to go get Jimmy Garoppolo. All of those moves have added up to this, which is the Super Bowl, which is the pinnacle of success in this league. And that's why I think the 49ers are here. They're here to stay for the next 3 years. You're going to be looking at the 49ers, and especially since Sherman could still play at a high level. That's kind of what I see transpiring here with this football team. So I'm really excited to watch this game. I think I'm going to do a mock draft maybe another time. I think that the key, again, is forcing Mahomes in the third and longs. It's taking the ball, it's running the football, it's getting Jimmy G comfortable, it's hitting Kittle early, getting a lot of second and ones, hitting George Kittle early, hitting Sanders. And I think the 49ers can win this game by 21 points. I said 42-21. A little bit of garbage time. And if America and the people around the world have to see another boring Super Bowl championship, I don't know if I feel all that bad for them, because, again, the Super Bowl is not for the diehards. It's for all the casual fans, while the diehards watch the entirety of the football season. Okay, that's what the diehards are for. Yeah. And I think Mahomes might try to do too much in this game. Well, Lalo, it's all about this game. I think, Raphael, I might unload a draft, a mock draft next week, where I talk about all the scenarios, what I would do, what other teams would do. Might be about a 2-hour mock. Or I might just preview each individual team. And kind of give individual spins on everything developing with an individual team. Like, I might go back, try to watch tape of an individual team, and then we'll decipher what their problems are according to what I see on their tape. So I might look at all Cincinnati's games. Even though that's not that important, though, they're probably taking a quarterback. But I might look at Washington. They're probably going to take Chase Young, right? But Detroit is a fascinating team that you have to study. The Giants, I think that the Giants in this draft, I can talk about the Giants I should be able to talk about them for a couple of hours. We should have a whole hourly discussion on each team and on each pick. So, guys, I want to thank you for listening to today's show. Thank you. I believe the Niners win this one going away. I think the Niners are the best team this year, best defense, and Mahomes isn't going to be able to get what he wants and what he needs in this game. So I just really, really like the 49ers in this spot. They're just a much better team. The defense is winning these type of scenarios. Now, I thought Tennessee would beat the Chiefs. I did, but Kansas City was offensively so good that Tennessee's defense didn't stand a chance. If you stop Kansas City's offense, you win, especially what Kyle can do on that side of the ball. And I just think the 49ers defense will steal the show. They have been all year. They've been the best defense. They've sacked the quarterback the most without pressuring all season long. So that's what's going to be the difference in this game, is the 49ers defensive front is one of the best fronts ever, and that's how you win a Super Bowl. You look at how the Giants won. You look at how Pittsburgh won. You look at Clay Matthews and the Packers that year. It wasn't just Aaron Rodgers. I mean, when we look at Packers-Bears with Jay Cutler, when we look at Packers-Bears, that was 21-14. Caleb Haney had a chance to drive down and tie the football game. So you look at every great champion needs a defensive stop in the playoffs. Every champion needs some defense to show up for you. I mean, let's look at the Super Bowl champions, Seattle. You look at the Patriots and how they killed the Indianapolis Colts with Deflategate, how they would win in their divisional round games. Peyton Manning in Denver both years. I believe, the Broncos won 16-8 the final year, and the Broncos then beat the Chargers 24-14 going into one of the final years or something like that. So, even when Peyton Manning was tremendous, the defense still won. Von Miller won the MVP. A 7th-round linebacker won the MVP for the Seattle Seahawks. So the Super Bowl is always, it really is about defense. Now, you could point to the Eagles, and that was the most shootout-like Super Bowl we've ever seen, where Malcolm Butler didn't play, and Nick Foles had a tremendous night, and Alshon Jeffrey and the Philly special, and it was like a game on roller skates. It was crazy. But the week before, the Eagles defense shut down Case Keenum to 14 points, shut down Matt Ryan to less than 17 points. So the Eagles defense carried them to the Super Bowl that year. It wasn't Nick Foles in the offense. Only in that Super Bowl was it Nick Foles. But you look at the totality of the season, and when the Eagles had to play Carolina that year, when the Eagles had to have big games and win, their defense would be there. They had the most complete team, and the most complete team usually wins. The most complete team is the San Francisco 49ers, and that is my Super Bowl pick. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. Listen on iTunes, listen on YouTube, listen and give this review a podcast. Give it a 5-star review. I want to thank everybody for listening or for watching the show. You guys are awesome. Everybody have a really, really good evening. It's been fun talking Super Bowl, and we should be back on Sunday.